Hey guys, I want to get into today how to look at scientific publications. Last time we talked about Google Scholar, how there's a lot of stuff available on there. Today I want to start talking about how to look at that. It used to be the case that scientific publications were available really only to academics and institutions that were directly involved in those fields. So now you can do it all on your laptop, sitting at your kitchen table like I'm doing. And many of the referenced publications are freely available to download. And if they're not, they're available in summary form, which is still pretty good. So in a previous video, I talked about using Google Scholar to access scientific publications. And now I want to talk to you about how to actually look at those publications. Starts with understanding the structure of scientific publications. So that's today's goal, is we're going to look at the structure, what a scientific publication is, sort of nuts and bolts wise. All right, let's start by going to Google Scholar. So I'm just going to type in Google Scholar. Go to it, and we'll type in LED lights, oyster, mushroom. There we go. And we'll get a list of articles here. And one of the interesting things on Google Scholar is that you can see how much these different articles are cited, how much they're used in other scholarly articles. So this top one has been cited in 18 other articles. The next one down has been cited in 26 articles. This is kind of good information to have. It'll give you somewhat of an idea of the value within the scientific community. Obviously, it's also a function of how old the study is, though. So a newly published article, like this one right here, The Effect of RGB LED Lights on Oyster Mushrooms, was published in 2023. There hasn't been a chance yet for that to be cited, so it's not surprising that it has not been cited. That gives you an idea. The other thing that I want you to notice from this page is that on the right side, some of these have either PDF or in some cases you'll see HTML. And this indicates that you can get some form of the full publication. Most of the rest are just summaries, but that doesn't mean they're not useful. Let's go to one of these. This is a summary. The intensity of blue light emitting diodes, LEDs, influences the antioxidant properties and sugar content of oyster mushrooms. This is published in Scientia Horticulturae, which is an Elsevier journal. Elsevier is a really big publisher of high quality science journals. And I don't know if any of their publications are available in full free online, but they do have summaries like this available. So let's go over kind of the nuts and bolts of what we're seeing here. It'll have the title, it'll have the authors, usually it'll have a way that you can contact them, and typically it'll have the abstract in full. The abstract of a scientific paper is basically the too long didn't read of the article. It lets you get the gist of the research without going through several pages of text. All right, the introduction section is often also included in full. The introduction section can be thought of as the justification and background for the research. So here's the issue we're interested in. Here's the history of knowledge and research on that issue. And here's what we want to add to that historical content. So that is kind of it. That's the justification. And this is where a lot of the citations come in. A lot of what is cited in the research is used here while they're giving background on the state of knowledge. And then beyond that, they'll have little bits of material they call snippets about materials and methods, which explains how the experiment was designed and evaluated. Um, Ideally, this in the full article, what you would see would be something that's detailed and specific enough so that the experiment is repeatable by others who may want to verify the results. They're not going to have all that detailed information in the summary to where you could actually repeat it just the way they did it, though. Then they're going to have the results section. The results section, again, they'll have just snippets of it, but in the full article, that would present the results of the experiment. And ideally, it's going to include not just data tables and raw numbers, but it'll have visualizations like tables and graphs and infographics to make sense of the raw data and to show you patterns. And it should also include statistical information that's important so that you can differentiate between natural variation in the data. If you have two different data sets, let's say you grow mushrooms under two different conditions and collect lots of repetitions under each of those conditions, you're going to have variation within each data set. So when they use the term statistically significant, it means that accounting for the number of data points in each of those sets and the variation within those data points in each set, the differences between the sets is still large enough that it can't be accounted for just by that natural variation. So then you can conclude that there's something legitimately different about the two different data sets. And then typically it'll end, the last of the real text sections is conclusions. And the conclusions section basically is just there to draw everything together and kind of make sense about what what they saw in their study. So they're going to bring it back around to that introductory section where they justified the study in a historical context, and they're going to then put their study, now that they've got the results, they're going to put that in context with its historical significance. And then even these summarized articles typically end with a full reference section, which is great. Like I said before, that can be a gold mine of good leads for you to find more good information. So let's go back. Let's take a quick look at one of these. We'll take a look at this one from the IOP conference series from Materials Science and Engineering, the effects of electrical shock and blue LED treatments on the growth, yield, and quality of gray oyster mushrooms. Interesting. We'll pull the full PDF on this one just so you can get an idea, but we're not going to go into it in detail right now. But it's going to have the abstract at the top, the introduction, materials and methods, all the way down. In this case, we're looking at 8 pages. This is a fairly short article, but 8 pages as opposed to the summary that was basically a couple of pages. So I'm going to leave it here. That's the basic nuts and bolts of a scientific article, what you're likely to see when you're looking them up on Google Scholar. But next time we're going to get into more details about how to view a full article and pull the information that you want out of it, and how to critique it and see how applicable it is to what you're doing.